with Deborah 614. Today, I'm happy to share the video of yesterday's Slow Flowers virtual member meetup, which was our June meeting. The gathering was so informative and inspiring that we decided to edit it for this week's episode of the Slow Flowers show. Our special guest is Julio Freitas, owner of The Flower Hat, an event floral design studio and flower farm based in Bozeman, Montana. A longtime Slow Flowers member and past guest of the Slow Flowers podcast, Julio is someone we've been eager to bring to the Slow Flowers Summit stage ever since our first year in 2017. Now he's speaking in 2 weeks at the Slow Flowers Summit in Bellevue, Washington. Julio's passion for floral design grew into flower farming when he realized he could successfully grow flowers despite Montana's challenging climate. We'll discuss how his floral enterprise evolves and changes. And as that happens, he continues to develop educational resources to teach others how to succeed in business and thrive in floral design and farming. In our wide-ranging conversation, we'll discuss how Julio grows flowers for his own designs, and how he devotes one half of the farm's production area to Dahlia tuber production for the Flower Hat's successful online sales program. And he'll also talk about the trialing program for a new fall bulb program. That's a lot of programs, sorry. At the Slow Flowers Summit, Julio will headline day 2, presenting a 1-hour mini version of the Flower Hat's popular workshop series tailored for florists, growers, and farmer florists. He will discuss the Flower Hat's unique business model, executing flowers for dozens of weddings and events each year. Featured in numerous national and international publications, the common thread of the Flower Hat's weddings and events is the ingredients, locally grown flowers, which Julio credits as a major distinctive for his studio's aesthetic and brand. And despite the short growing season, USDA Zone 4B, and limited acreage, the Flower Hat maximizes production by carefully selecting crops that elevate floral arrangements, including hard to ship and hard to find varieties that bring floral designs to life. Julio is amazing. He can chat about business while also designing a floral arrangement. What a feat. You'll enjoy his process and learn about how he approaches the centerpiece design he's going to show, using a low-footed bowl and a ball of chicken wire, along with statice, watsonia, carnations, ranunculus, and no foliage. It's fabulous to watch. So let's jump right in and welcome Julio Freitas. The conversation was originally recorded on Friday, June 9th. I'll share our sponsor thank yous and more details after the interview. I'm delighted to welcome you all here. Summer is upon us almost, and I know a lot of people have weddings this weekend or other flower commitments, so we're recording this to air tomorrow. But we are very, very lucky to have our special friend, Julio Freitas of the Flower Hat here. Hi, Julio.
Hi, how are you, Deborah?
I'm great. It's so good to see you. We've got lots to talk about, and the number one reason I invited you to share today is that this is the last Slow Flowers member meetup before the summit on June 26th and 27th.
So
And
excited.
I'm so excited that you'll be one of our featured speakers. Thank you for saying yes.
Yes, we've been talking about it for a few years now, and our calendars never lined up, and I'm glad it did this year.
I actually think you were on my wish list for 2017, my first year. So now you had room in your schedule, and we're getting you to Seattle. Have you taught in Seattle before, Julio?
I have not.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, so I'm excited to come. I love Seattle, but I'm excited to go back.
Yeah.
It's one short flight away.
Exactly, the inaugural event. The Slow Flowers Summit is June 26th and 27th. I'll put the link to register, and I'll also put a promo code in there. We are running a 10% off registration, although we're almost sold out, but we're running a 10% off registration until the end of the weekend, June 11th. And then I'll also share the Flower Hat website. So Julia, let's chat a little bit, and then you did follow through with a completely last minute request of mine to say you're going to do a demo for us. So that's so sweet of you. Lots going on with the Flower Hat. So first of all, I started chatting with you before the recording that there are sort of 3 channels of your energy. I don't know how you can be 3 men in one, but you're a grower. You have this very successful Dahlia tuber business. You're a floral designer, and you're also an educator. So do you want to give us a little update on what's going on with all those chapters of your life? And we'll just talk about that a little bit.
First of all, thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to come to Seattle and speak. I'm loving that we're doing this right now and getting people really pumped up for the summit. I've only heard great things about the summit over the years, so I'm excited to be a part of it this year. So thanks for having me. Yes, after COVID, we are back to, I am back to teaching and being on stage again. I love speaking. I love connecting with growers and florists. So that's a huge part of the education that I do. And I'm excited to be on the road again. But besides speaking, we're also working on a number of what we talked about modules, smaller modules of what makes a flower hat the flower hat. So all of the little techniques that I've learned from, what questions to ask a bride in a proposal during a consultation, or when to start your zinnias, how to plant dahlia tubers, how to deal with a difficult customer, or a bridezilla, if you will. All of those little pieces, we're going to put those in education format, which is what we used to do in our workshops. So we're just taking a break this year from workshops to work on that educational material that will live on our website. So I'm excited for that because that's one thing that people have always asked about. Some people can't make it to our workshops. It's a 3-day workshop. It's, you have to come, you have to leave your businesses, and you have to stay here. So I understand that there are some challenges with coming here, and people have asked us, can you please do an online class? So I'm excited to be offering that probably starting next year. On the Dahlia tuber, we had the largest Dahlia tuber sale we've ever had, ever. A little bit of a sore subject, but I don't know if you remember last year when we had a sale and our website completely crashed. Our web commerce platform could not handle the volume of people that were trying to buy Dahlia tubers at the same time. Our e-commerce platform provided us with absolutely no customer service at all. They said, sorry, we don't know what happened. So I promised our customers that we would have a brand new platform for this year, and we did it. We have a brand new online store that is hosted on Shopify, and not to advertise, but I'm so happy with their product. And
maybe they ought to sponsor you.
Right? The sale went off without a hitch, no crashes. Everyone was able to shop and have a very pleasant checkout experience. So I was very excited about that. And now we have our fall bulb sale coming up in October. I think it's going to be October 16th is the date that we're looking at. So I'm excited for that. I trialed so many different varieties of tulips and daffodils this year. So I'm excited to be offering those in the fall. And then in the weddings and events, there have been so many corporate events this year. We have so many lined up for summer, for July and August.
For people surprisingly coming to the Bozeman, Montana area?
Wow. Yeah, to do 3-day, 4-day, multi-day corporate meetings. I have signed some NDA, so I can't say who the customers are, but there are some really big corporations coming here to have their executives and managers on, like they go horseback riding, and then they have dinner at night, and then the next day they have meetings all day and dinner. So I have to do flowers for all of these events, and most of them are themed, which is weird, but I'm here for it. But surprisingly, we have no large weddings. We usually do like the big production weddings. For some reason, I have my own theory, which I'll share with you, but like the bigger weddings that we got used to doing, they're just not happening this year, nearly as many as there used to be. So we're doing plenty of weddings. There's still like a lot of small weddings. There's a lot of elopements. For some reason, there's a lot of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday weddings.
Yeah.
But next year, we are already getting emails for the large wedding, the big productions for next year. And my theory is that because of COVID, and I've been talking to other wedding industry vendors about, I'm like, is it me? They're like, no, we don't have weddings either. Like, it's such a weird lull in this valley, which is a big destination for weddings. My theory is that because of COVID, people weren't meeting. So you meet somebody 2 to 3 years later, you get married. Because of COVID in 2020 and 2021, people weren't really meeting. So there aren't any new couples. And the ones that were together had to live together. So they probably got They're probably separated.
That's crazy.
But
So this is almost like you're like a wedding counselor now and a therapist looking at what's happening with relationships. That's amazing.
yeah, because it
But
affected my business, right?
yeah, but thank God that
Yeah,
the corporate people are dying to get together and do these
yeah.
destination retreats, because that's, in a way, it might have its own stress, but it's a little bit less emotional than a wedding, I would imagine, to keep a corporate person happy,
Uh,
client happy. Or is it
yes,
stressful in
and
its own way?
it's 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 stressful in its own way, mostly because these corporate planners are so they just need it done.
Mhm.
So they don't sometimes give you a whole lot of direction because they're trusting that you'll do it. So that's a little bit more stressful to present them with something that, like, I don't even know your company culture well enough to say this is what the flowers would represent.
Mm,
So, but so far, so good.
good.
So far, it's
Great.
been fine. Say our summer now is basically smaller weddings and corporate events and a lot of farm work, basically.
And a lot of prep work for the education. So the
Yeah.
very popular 2 and 3 day destination workshops with the flower hat. You're really smart to think about how to change bringing that information to people, because those are, they're an investment. And like you said, the travel is involved,
Yeah.
and it's, you want to reach more people. And so bite-size modules of information, it's almost like on demand. People can come onto your new website and just choose the courses they want to take. Is that what you envision?
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be it.
And you think you'll launch that for 2023
For 2024, yes.
Okay. Well,
It'll probably be summer of 2024.
we look forward to that. On the dahlia tubers, I mean, I do
Okay.
remember that there was a little bit of a little snafu last year. I think that maybe you're still traumatized from it more than your
Right.
customers. But why do you think that the flower hat dahlia tubers are so popular? And like, there's, because you can buy the tubers of dahlia tubers anywhere. Everyone's selling them.
Yeah.
Just to pat yourself on the back a bit and tell us why you think this has been so important for you and for your clients, your customers.
Um, the I think it's because I am a farmer growing dahlias for my own weddings. The palette that I favor is more, I'm gonna say, dreamy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always on the hunt for the best burgundy dahlias. I'm always on the hunt for the best white dahlia. But at the same time, I really need a really good bluff dahlia, a really good peach. And in the process of selecting, there are so many dahlias that people don't even know that I grow because they're just not pretty. I don't
Mm-hmm.
find them pretty. I don't think that I can use them in my design. So I think being the combination of a florist that grows his own flowers kind of helped me curate a dahlia catalog that I hope people like.
Right.
Um,
That's a really good
yeah, so
point.
like it. Mhm.
So people, you're thinking as a farmer, you're thinking like the end product in a bouquet or in an installation. And from a designer, your visual art is so important. It's not just the vase life or I don't know, the eye candy that of the primary colors that farmers market customers are drawn to. You have a
Right.
different purpose.
Yeah, so I don't think my dahlias would be. I think it's a very different product to grow dahlias for, like you said, farmers market or CSAs versus a wedding. So I think
Mm-hmm.
the palette is very different. Like I think most of the dahlias that I grow would probably not win a blue ribbon at a show, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking
Right.
for dahlias that will benefit my design style.
So event friendly dahlias.
Yes.
That's interesting. Have you ever entered a dahlia in like the county fair or anything?
No, I would be so nervous.
The Montana State Fair, go get a ribbon.
If my baby doesn't win, I'm gonna be so sad.
Well, you said you're going to do a design, and before we do that, I want to just ask you for
Sure.
some wisdom it's a business question that I think everyone is afraid of and lives in fear of being hacked on Instagram. And tell us a little bit about the way I found out about it is that somebody started messaging me from your account and was highly obnoxious. And I knew it wasn't you. And I think I took a screenshot and sent it to you. And you said that you had your account hacked, but it sounds like it was pretty extreme.
It was, I lost it. I got an email from Instagram saying your email has been changed, but I didn't think anything of it for some reason. I was like, oh, it's probably, I thought that was the scam. But the scam was me clicking on a link that I shouldn't have clicked.
Oh,
I got an email that looked very legitimate and I clicked on it. And from there on, it all unraveled. I didn't even think of it like the next day when I went to open my Instagram and I was like, where's my Instagram? So that's when I went back to the emails and they said my phone number had been deleted, my two-factor authentication had been turned off, and what was the email had been changed, and then my username was also changed. So it was such a nightmare to try to figure out, because you cannot get a hold of Instagram. There is not a 1-800 Instagram help me line or helpline, help me line, help me. There is
no rescue plan.
For them, if a business account loses their account, it's more business for them because now you're gonna have to spend more money on ads with them to promote your account. So they kind of don't care, I don't think.
Wow.
This is just a theory, allegedly. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's the truth, that's what happened, but that's how it felt to me. So a lot, I talked to some people that I knew in the social media world, like a lot of people suggested a few things like, oh, make sure your authentication, two-factor authentication is on. I'm like, it was on, of course it was on, but we're past that point now. Yeah. How do I get it back?
Yeah.
What worked was emailing Instagram every single day, twice a day. So I found like there was a security, because they send you all sorts of links. If your account got hacked, here's what you do. I had already done all of those things. I got to a point where you send them a video selfie of yourself. They say like, turn to the left, turn your head to the left, turn your head to the right, up, down. So they like recognize it. You are who you are.
Wow.
I had sent that. I got an email back saying, you are confirmed. We recognize that you are who you say you are, but I still didn't have access to my account. And the reason was because my account had been suspended because the hacker, when he changed the email on my account from my email to his email was connected to his Facebook account, and his Facebook had been deactivated for violating community guidelines. So obviously my Instagram was immediately deactivated as well, and my account was suspended. So eventually, I also figured out this is just a theory, this is just a feeling, but I think a lot of Instagram's customer service is AI generated. The responses are AI generated because it got as bad as Instagram suggesting that I reach out to the hacker to get their Facebook account reactivated, and only then they could reactivate my Instagram account. And that's when I was like, there's no way a person would suggest that.
Right.
A human being would not suggest that. So what I did was I kept digesting the email in much simpler words that a computer could read. And I just kept rewriting the same email in many different ways to make it super simple. Yes. All I needed was for somebody to go into my account and take his email and put mine in there. That's all I needed. At the end, I figured that out. So I kept like digesting that email and digesting it. And then eventually somebody helped me. And it took 2 weeks of back and forth. The thing is, they do respond. When you email them, they do respond to you. Every single email was responded. But again, like most of them were not very helpful. Yeah. But in the end, I think I got a human being to read the email and see what was happening. And then 2 weeks later, I got my account back. I learned so much from that.
Did you retain all your followers? Did you retain all your followers, or did you have to start over?
So yeah, so I retained. So the hacker, there's a couple other things. Like the hacker emailed me directly and said, "Hey, hi, it's me. I hacked your Instagram account. I'm just an engineering student. from Turkey. I don't live with my family and I really need money to pay my bills. So if you give me $3,000, I'll give you your account back. I did not interact with that person because I was not about to give $3,000, because if his account was suspended, who was to say I was going to get my account back? And
Oh my God.
it wasn't worth my time to invest in that exchange. The other thing is I had two-factor authentication on, and looking back, I did receive codes from Instagram to my text message. And at some point, he got one of the codes to get in. I don't know how he got a code out of my phone, but he got it. I'm saying
Wow.
he because I think the gender of the scammer is not relevant right now. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, he got the code and got into my account. So that to me was the scariest part, because that's the whole point of two-factor authentication, that they don't have access to your phone.
Wow.
But yeah, so I got back in there one day, changed all the information back, and then when account was reactivated, I was able to secure the name again. I had all the followers. I had many people like you text me and say, "Hey, is this you?" So that was a little scary. I'm glad no one interacted with him. And all the content was still there. Everything
Wow.
could have been wiped. Thank God it
Oh, it
wasn't. But
really, it really wasn't as bad as it could have been, but still, times
mhm,
suck. Well,
yeah.
no, that person did call me a fool. So when I said I said something like, "You're a fake, you're not Julio." So interesting. I guess
Yeah.
that's just, I guess whatever the takeaway is, don't click on anything that comes from,
Don't click on anything.
you know, like I get them from PayPal all the time. Like I've realized
Oh
someone
yeah.
wants into my PayPal account, and it's because anyway, you finally learn. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're there. And if anyone, and I'm going to put your Instagram in the chat. So please follow Julio and share him some love, because he had to work hard for this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Gee.
Oh, a
Oh,
couple of nights of no sleep because you just feel so violated. I
yeah.
I had my account. I look back. I had my account since 2011.
You
Like
were an
12
early
years just
adopter,
completely
right?
gone. I was an early adopter of
Oh my
Instagram.
gosh. Oh, Julia. Well, we're going to get to see you in
Okay.
person with your flowers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on spotlight. And first of all,
Okay.
thank you so much for saying that you would. I mean, I asked you yesterday, "Oh, are you going to do a demo?" And you're like, "Oh no, I wasn't planning on it." And I realized I had gotten greedy. So anyway, thank you
Well, I
for,
have some flowers, so we're gonna do
yeah,
a little monochromatic arrangement here, and we can
lovely.
talk while I'm designing.
Yeah,
So,
so we've enlarged the screen so people can see what you're doing. Is this
okay.
one? Tell us about this shape of the bowl. Is this something that you prefer for centerpieces, or is it just what you had on hand?
So this bowl is my favorite shape to work with. If anybody is wondering what's in here, it's just chicken wire, and it's being held by floral tape. Um, I don't know how to use frogs, quite frankly, so I use chicken wire a lot. But I love this shape because it allows for a really nice arrangement for a dinner table, and it could be a long table. Then we make it long on the sides, but if it's a round table, you just make it round. Um, I love this shape just because I learned to design in a more organic, free garden style once I started growing my own flowers. And you really start walking around your flowers and you start seeing how they behave, how the stems, the shape of the stems. Um, and I feel like this shape of bowl lends itself to a very nice
Mm-hmm.
arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some flowers here. We're gonna do like a peachy coral color palette.
Lovely. Are these your
And
flowers, or I mean, what's going on in your field right now? Is it still pretty early in the season because of your
actually,
elevation?
yeah, so I'm many things on that note, but I forgot to, I wanted to go grab GM. The GM is in full bloom right now, and I meant to go grab some for this. So I forgot about that. But these flowers are from California. And I have some really pretty carnations here that came from Holland. So these unfortunately are not from my garden right now.
That's
But
okay.
I don't know. I was looking at pictures last year. At this time last year, I was harvesting tulips. The tulips
Wow.
have come and gone this year. They're not here. We already harvested them. I photographed them. I documented them for the sale. They were
Sure.
really, really early this year. And I don't know. It's just been very hot here too.
Yeah.
I think our last frost this year was in early April. and we haven't had one since, and I hope I'm not jinxing it at this point, but we usually
Yeah.
have our last frost Memorial Day.
Right. And
So
then you feel
it
like you
was
can plant
45 days early.
you can plant dahlia tubers after Memorial Day, but yours were
Yeah,
do you do that, or you don't winter anything over in the ground with your you have
not
to
Dahlia
lift them all.
tubers, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 6,000. It's not a fun process to dig them all up, but we do it every year.
I just have to say a couple things about what you're doing. Number one, so many people do design tutorials standing behind the bowl facing the camera. And it's people comment constantly about how hard it is to design quote unquote backwards. So you've solved that problem by stepping around to the sort of the front side, and you're designing as if you would in your studio then, like you're seeing the whatever the front is as you rotate that.
Correct.
And that's really
I don't know how to design from the back. Or
right.
even if people just design here, then turn it. I'm like, well, no one saw what you just did.
Well, I like the fact that your pedestal is tall enough that you're not bending over. You're able to just design right at eye level. So that's fun. I'm going to try that. And I also have to say, I've been seeing these posts of the pastel status and how beautiful that is. You're using it in mass versus like, I don't know, some little textural element. Is it because the colors just fits so nicely with your palette? Because that's a lot of status that's making a major part of the design. I want to see what else you do, but like we're going to notice that when you're finished, right?
Yeah, you will. And I'm using the status as my granary because I don't have any granary going with this arrangement. I really wanted it to be a color block arrangement, and I figured I could forego the granary this time and use the status as my base, as the frame for the flowers.
Yeah, we're really seeing the lines very clearly with the status too.
Yeah. So then once the arrangement is done, you'll be able to see all of it. And it'll be, like you said, the status will be a big part of the arrangement. And I love this status. I don't know where to get seeds for it. Look how pretty it is. Oops.
There's some farmers coming to the Slow Flower Summit who've been posting pastel status on their feed. So I'll make sure I hook you up with them, and you can maybe work a little negotiation on that.
Yeah, status grows really well here in Montana.
But traditionally, it's been the yellows and the purples and the whites that people have been able to get seed for.
Yep. And I'm telling you, importing this from Holland is not cheap. So I'd love to grow it here.
Well, Julio, how does that work for you? Do you import X percentage and then try to grow everything else yourself, or what has evolved in terms of the sourcing combination for your events and your own custom work?
So luckily for us, most years, I think this year included, we have enough weddings on the books by March that we can plan our crops around for the summer. We can plan our crops around these events. A lot of the events we have, they want wildflowers and colorful. So for us, that's great because we can use a lot of zinnias, larkspur, even dahlias later in the summer. I can use a lot of ranunculus and anemones. People love anemones because they think they look like poppies. So in the summer, it's a lot more, I would say it's a lot more from the farm than imported.
Sure.
But in the winter, we pretty much import most of our flowers. And by importing, I mean we bring them in. A lot of them come from California, so we're not necessarily importing everything from Holland itself. But in the winter, when we do our home clients or residences, they need flowers that last 7 days, I guess. And it's very hard to find. I have to source them from places that are growing flowers that are bred for transporting, for being out of water, because I know they're going to be tougher. So we bring a lot of lisianthus in, and a lot of ranunculus, a lot of anemones, and people are pretty happy with that. Some of those come from Holland, some of those come from California. Our wholesaler is in Spokane, Washington, and they send a weekly list every week, and I try to source a lot from them because also shipping is easier and I know what I'm getting. But if I need some specialty flower, then I go to the Holland auction.
Got it.
Look at this. This is called Watsonia.
Oh, right. It's a relative of a gladiolus, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
so
really pretty. I used it for the first time this weekend. So it's really great for like establishing lines. It's a little stiff for what I like to use. In fact, Amy Balster is the one that taught me that you can establish lines with flowers that are not necessarily a line. So I actually always, she told me that one time and I always took that to heart. So I like to create the line, like I cut the stems shorter and I will build the line from the tip of this flower all the way down here just by cutting the stem shorter instead of just having one long stem.
Sure.
It just,
so it's kind of like
creates a lot more.
A composition line that is
has
more than one element.
Yeah. And I'm also excited to see Amy because I love her.
Yes, I know you're going to have a little flower reunion. You know what I like about that Watsonia? I have grown that before. Is the actual individual florets are tinier than what you see in a gladiolus, so it kind of fits a little bit more of that, softer scale. It's not so graphic.
Yeah, right. It's more delicate, I guess. Yeah. It was, like I said, it was my first time. I think it's a spring bloomer.
Yeah, it might be on your bulb list next fall.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to get some. And I feel there's a lot of contrast happening between these two colors. But my goal is to start with the stark contrast and then bring them together with other flowers.
Do you mean for lack of a better term, the boldest and the palest, and then you're going to move toward whatever blends those two?
Yep. And I have some really cool colors here to do that with.
I really like your asymmetrical shape because usually you see a true S where the higher, the Hogarth curve or whatever, where the higher portion is upright and the lower portion is draping, but your lower portion is not so much draping, but kind of creating that more extended arm. Maybe that's because of the flower. I don't know.
Yeah, I usually don't drape anything below. Like if this tape is here, I always tell the designers here at the studio, like if you see a lot of this tape at the end, just go ahead and pull it because I don't want to sacrifice the shape of the arrangement to hide mechanics. So I'll rather just remove the mechanics once the arrangement is done and I know it's safe to remove it.
Because the chicken wire is going to hold everything in place.
Yeah, and there will still be like a tic-tac-toe of tape in the middle.
Yeah.
So that should be enough to hold it together.
Interesting. So don't let the design be dictated by hiding tape.
Yeah, I see a lot of designs that are like heavier on greenery just because of mechanics, like you want to hide the mechanics, which I agree with. But sometimes I think I let myself go too far with the greenery and then you lose the shape of what you're going for. And I want it always to be light and I really want it to be effortless look.
Yeah.
But you'll lose that if you start just like shoving things in there just for the sake of hiding mechanics.
Hey, anybody who has questions, pop in. Monique Morris just sent a comment that says gorgeous. So
thank you.
We'll take that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know, sultry, I guess is the word that comes to mind, like this sort of colors that aren't well defined. And they just play nicely together. What do you have there? All right.
That's carnations.
That's definitely imported, I take it.
Yeah, yes, it is.
All right. Well, because it's so beautiful, we'll let you have it.
Okay. All right. This is Happy Haru is the name of it. And I always like to buy flowers from by the name because I think it's so important to recognize the variety. People, the breeders put so much work into creating these varieties, and I think it's very special to honor them. Like Dahlia tubers, I think is the same way. So
say the name of it again.
It's called Happy Haru, Haru.
Okay, Happy Aru. All right.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a in that muddy category, but I mean that in the most positive way.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, and I really hope that I had some tulips from the farm to use in this design, but I went in the cooler today and they were a little sad. So um,
We'll
your
take
arrangement is
we'll
we'll make
take
an
it.
exception this time.
Well, you said you're also going to send me or post a photo of the finished product. So
Yeah.
we'll if you decide to go get that GM and pop it in later, we'll
Oh,
be
perfect.
surprised.
Okay. Yeah. It's the Mai Tai one.
And see how you're making that line with that you were just talking about. You did it with the Watsonia and now you're doing it with the carnation. I love that.
Yeah. And I keep extending that because I think it's nice for your eye to have like a path to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the layering process of it.
Mm.
But speaking of carnations, I'm really noticing that a lot of people are growing carnations, which is very exciting to me, at least, because there aren't that many carnations that are grown in the US anymore. And I think didn't the last carnation farm close a couple of years ago?
Yeah, that it was a Japanese family
Yeah.
in California, and they
I
hung
was
on.
just about to hop in and actually ask about this because I've tried growing carnations, and obviously even the seed stock that we have access to here in the US can be somewhat limited. So, Julio, are you growing carnations? Do you have any tips for those of us who want to get in on the carnation game here in the US?
So I've had carnations be perennials on my farm. They're not that hard to grow. I think it's a matter of educating the customers as well that the carnations that we can grow here, that we have, like you said, the seeds that we have access to, they're not this big. The heads aren't this big, but they have a special place in, especially design, for. I'm just going to speak to event florists, but I'm sure depending on the colors that you pick, they would definitely benefit like market CSA bouquets and market bouquets. But they're not hard. They're actually not that hard to grow, at least like in my experience here. They, like I said, they can perennialize. I am in zone 4B. And we actually had really good success with them. We just had to rip them out because they were in a bed that we needed to put peonies in. So I actually kind of messed up.
Was it
and
more, were they smaller heads, like more on the dianthus side, or because isn't it a dianthus family?
Yeah, so they were probably half this size.
Okay.
But they were so fragrant. They were so incredibly fragrant.
That's the difference that I notice on our farm is the scent is incredible. I feel like all I've really found access to are pinks and reds in terms of seed stock, but the smell is so great for anybody who's not growing them. You have to try
it. It would be great if somebody could isolate them and start separating the colors, because I think we can only find them in a mix. But yeah, it would be great to be able to have the separate colors.
Kind of what happens with poppies too.
Yeah.
Where you can't get that unique apricot isolated in enough quantity to not have polka dots in your beds. Julio, you have high tunnels as well as field crops, right?
I only have field crops.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we put low tunnels up.
And those are for more of the early spring bulbs?
Those are for spring bulbs. We will sometimes overwinter. So we did this a couple of years ago. We're going to do it again this year. We will overwinter foxglove, poppies, all the biennials. We'll overwinter those under a tunnel.
Great. And
yeah.
Do you think that you're going to, because of the land limitations, you probably wouldn't put a high tunnel, install a high tunnel in the future? What do you really want to be? You're having an existential crisis here. Are you a florist or a farmer?
No, it's because my staff knows this. Even with the low tunnels, like as I'm designing this, I'm looking at the highway right there, and it's a very busy highway. This highway takes you to Yellowstone Park. It goes from the airport to Yellowstone Park. It's incredibly busy. And my biggest fear is the wind that comes from the south here will pick up the plastic and take it to the highway.
Got it.
It's an irrational fear, I think, but it really gets to me, and I just can't put high tunnels up for that reason.
Hey,
It stops me.
There's only so many windbreaks you can plant when, when you're in the big sky country,
Yep. Okay, does California count as local?
Yes, those ranunculus are charming.
Yeah.
Look
Yes,
at
they're
that palette.
so pretty.
Oh,
Yeah, they're just about, I think they're just about at the end of their season in California. So we were able to snag some for this wedding. But I think this is gonna bring it all together now.
It's such a good example of designing without foliage. Like it's lush and full and textural, and you don't need foliage at all. I love that lesson.
And there's a conversation to be had about pricing as well, because I think a lot of the times we think because it has more foliage, it costs less. You're like, well, there's still a lot of labor involved in that process. So sometimes that is true, but sometimes it is not. So it's a matter of always putting pen to paper to realize what your pricing needs to be for your arrangement. And you can play with your recipe, all you want to make it cost effective for the client. If you're dealing with budget, if you have a little bit more leeway, then there are some foliage types that are very expensive to get. So sometimes having more foliage doesn't necessarily mean cheaper, or not having foliage doesn't necessarily mean that it's super expensive either.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on what you're going for.
Yeah. Kim Gruder, who is also with Salty Acres Farm, has a question. I'm going to see if I can put Kim's. Kim, you're off. Your mic is enabled, so you can jump in. Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me. GOC,
hello.
Hi. GOC does carry a pastel status. It is a mix, and it's hard to get. It only came available, like if you put in an early order, you couldn't get it until after February, but they do carry a pastel mix of status, and it's an early bloomer. So that's really kind of nice.
This is the geoseed, you said?
Geoseed, yes.
Okay. There's another question, Julio, about using the chicken wire, and could you just restate what you're using to anchor the chicken wire in the bowl? You're just using the tape, right?
Yes, I'm just using tape. It's a 1/4 inch floral tape.
And is the chicken wire in a ball or a dome shape, or just mashed in there?
It's a ball that's meshed in there.
Yeah. Because you want multiple points of contact for the stem, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. As long as you have enough layers of the chicken wire all the way down at the bottom, then your arrangement is going to be secure. That's the whole idea behind the chicken wire. Because if you only have one layer, the flower keeps, it doesn't stay stable. Oh. It won't stay where you want it to be.
There's that little quirky guy.
Right? Let's honor it.
Yes.
I love a wild ranunculus stem.
There's
a flower creator called the Wonky Stem. And every time I see his username pop up, it just makes me smile because I love that name so much. I'm like, I love the wonky stems.
Listen, I've been talking about the wonky stems for a long time. When you get these, that's why I love local flowers too. But when you get these flowers, all the stems are so straight. They're perfectly straight. You're like, well, that's not fun. Like, you give me the wonky stems. Have a wonky stem program where you sell all the weird, funky stems, and we'll love it.
Yeah. I want to know in the comments, has anybody else gotten straight flowers from a wholesaler and tried to make them wonky using wire and then come to regret it? Because I know I have. I have broken flowers trying to wonk them.
It's a new verb, to wonk.
So it looks like we have another question here from Andrea. And she wants to know, what percentage of flowers do you grow versus what do you source for your design? Also, how many acres do you grow? And I feel like you touched on this a little bit before, but yeah, if you don't mind sharing a little.
So our I think the one thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about this earlier is that our production has changed a little bit, because if you told me 15 years ago, Julio, you're going to be a farmer and you're going to sell fall bulbs. I would have been like, no, that's never going to happen. But every step that we have taken in our business has led us to a different like revenue stream. And I think that's kind of true for most people. Like, you don't really think about doing CSA bouquets, or maybe you do and that's your plan. But then all of a sudden you're seeing that people, when they come to pick up the flowers, they also want to go cut. So you start experimenting with you pick a model, and like one thing leads to another. So the bottom line is, like, we used to grow a lot more for our own events in the summer. I would say like it was probably like an 80-20, where 80% came from the farm in the summer and 20% was brought in. We only have 1 acre of growing space. Half of that is Dahlia production for Dahlia tubers. So we use most of the flowers in the summer as Dahlia. So I try to grow some different shapes as well. Like in white, we have, like platinum blonde is an anemone Dahlia, and then we have balls and like larger Dahlias, just depending on the type of arrangement that we need to make. So half of our production is Dahlias. Not the other half, I would say another 20% is perennials, shrubs, things that we can use for design. But another big part of our production has now turned to trials. So I have to trial all the ranunculus and all the anemones that we sell. I have to grow them. Elizabeth was out there with me. She was out there for the Dahlias, but also for ranunculus. We're literally out there with a ruler trying to see the heights of all the varieties. We take notes, like daffodils was the same way. Which one is more fragrant? Which one has the stem length to be a cut flower? If they're really short, most likely I don't want to sell it, because I know that my clientele is expecting flower to be a cut flower variety. So there's a lot of space in our production that's dedicated to that. And when it comes to like fall bulbs, I have to let those tulips really blow open. I have some Stella Reinfeld in the cooler that are insane. Like, you will never get a Dahlia tulip like that from a wholesaler, because they're so big, and I let them fully open and put on quite the show. So I think just over the years, with how our business model has changed, our production and the percentage of what we get, is it flown in versus grown, has changed a little bit. And we used to do a lot more weddings in the summer, but now we're doing less weddings in the summer, but we're doing like more of these corporate events. And, when we're doing workshops as well, like the need for flowers for workshops aren't quite the same as the flowers that we would need for a wedding. So like we have more freedom to grow more fun stuff for the workshops. And then people get to see some different things that they probably wouldn't see, like perennial geranium, for example. Like it's so beautiful, but like, you can't sell that as a cut flower because it just doesn't last. So like I would grow that to use in a wedding, because I know it can last for a day and that's about it.
Julio,
so I don't know if that answers the question, but
no, I think that's really a good question. Like you're limited with your land, and now your land is producing for a different purpose than just cutting. So I wanted to add, though, don't you also buy from Farm to Florist Montana, the collective that is marketing from other farmers in the state?
Yes, I love Jamie.
Yeah, I mean he's sort of he's in your backyard every week, probably, with deliveries.
Yeah, he comes every week. I think it's on Wednesdays. Actually, just got an email from him about availability. And yes, because I know that they're going to have purple status, and I know they're going to have snapdragons. So I can forego all of that in my production, and I can focus on the things that I know he's not going to grow. Like Jewels of Volpar. It's a little harder to find, but like I love it. I can use that almost every week if I want to.
Wow.
And yeah, so I also, and there used to be another flower farm here in town that I used to buy a lot from. Kind of had like more of not a standing order, but I used to get something from them every week, just because I knew that their product was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a mix.
It's back to what you said earlier about if you had been told 15 years ago that you would have a bulb business, your openness to course correcting every season based on what was successful and what your customers want is why you I guess, stay challenged and interested in your own business and why people want to learn from you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I appreciate the recognition of that, because honestly, I encourage everyone to explore an avenue of business that they normally wouldn't think of. It's very uncomfortable in the beginning. Like, I do not wish on anyone that decides to grow Dahlia tubers that their website crashes. But
Right.
like, don't let that be the thing that stops. Because it happened to me, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
there's just so many different obstacles that we all face. And I mean, that's the thing with Instagram, like, people don't really see that. So, and I feel like that's why I like to go to conferences and connect with people, because we can share more of that, like the realism that it is, you know, running a business.
Well, we're thrilled that you're going to be at the summit. You're going to be talking about this whole kind of niche that you're in, which is growing luxury flowers for luxury weddings. But I'm thinking now you might also be talking about events as well, corporate events as well as weddings.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like the growing part of it, understanding, looking at trends and understanding who your client is, who potential clients could be, is really what helps you narrow down your cropland to make sure that you can sell the stems that you're growing. There's really nothing more frustrating than walking out in the field and you're like, yeah, I have nowhere to sell these.
Yeah.
And I have not mastered that, but we have definitely gotten better over the years. And that's what I'm hoping to share at the summit is, you know, the steps to get there, the things to look for, and you know, the flowers to grow and that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm gonna pull this because, like I said, I didn't hide a whole lot of tape.
Yeah, impressive.
Pull this.
And we've got a few more minutes, so this is a good wrap up. And we'll all check out the flower hat on Instagram to see just the final photography. And your photography is amazing, and you've worked hard at shooting all of your own arrangements and your tutorials and all. So I love that you're going to have a workshop coming up next year on how to photograph your flowers. One of your modules.
Yes. Yep. It doesn't take much, but that is one of the things that we covered in the workshop. Is once the students made their centerpiece or their bouquet, like, we go to like a place that is conducive to good photography, and we talk about the do's and the don'ts of photography, and that alone is a whole hour conversation on what to do. So that'll be coming up next year too, hopefully sooner, but next year for sure.
That's wonderful. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up, Julio? That is so stunning, and you're so generous to share that with us in the virtual studio today.
I will add the GM for sure, because I think it needs it, and I will take a photo of it. And I'm just gonna pop a couple of pockets here. What I'll probably do is the same thing that I did with the carnations on this side. Like, it's a little grouping, kind of like what you would do in a garden. I will pop the GM here to kind of create more of like a bridge between all of these flowers and bring it all together. Otherwise, I will see you at the summit. Another question that people ask me a lot. Yes. Another question that people ask a lot is about hats.
Yes.
People have been wanting hats since COVID hit. We have been having a very hard time sourcing hats, but we have secured a few. So they're going to be coming on for sale. And I think they are on the way now. We had some orders cancel on us again because of COVID, but hats are coming. Again, working on education materials for the coming year. And we are also, this is an in for the Slow Flowers audience. We are rebranding our entire brand. I'm so excited to share our new logo. My marketing manager almost quit on me because we have been trying to get this logo finalized for about 6 months. And branding is something that is so personal to me. I built the brand. Like, if you see the hat, I drew that hat by hand, and I had a very hard time letting go of it. But he presented me with a new hat, and I said, the hat is great, but the font, that's not it. The font is going to be like a pair of jeans. When you put it on, you're like, that's it. And for 6 months, that poor man inundated me with fonts, and I was like, nope, that's not it. And he's like, Julia, we just need to make a decision. I'm like, I'm making the decision that that's not it. When I see it, I'll like it. And then the
Wow.
last one he showed me, he said, okay, I just went on a limb. I did something totally different. It's not at all what you're asking for. It doesn't check any of your boxes, but I figured we would just take a departure and take a leap from where we were.
Wow.
And sure enough, I looked at it and was like, oh, that's it. And he's like,
Wow.
yeah, I thought that this, I'm like, nope, you don't even need to explain it. I get it. I see what's happening. That's exactly a representation of our brand. So I'm excited to share that. We have a whole color palette happening. It's going to be so beautiful. And I'm excited to have like all branding cohesive now. And that's going to happen very, very soon with a brand new website. So I'm so excited for all of that.
Hey, you know what? I have a flowery flower hat that I bought from you several years ago. I will make sure to sanitize it, and then I'll bring it to the Slow Flowers Summit as a door prize, because that would be, if someone could get then you to sign the back and with a Sharpie, that would be priceless.
Well, I'll bring one of the new ones.
All righty. All right.
Let's do that.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
Instead of throwing the bouquet, I'll just throw the hat to the audience.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to need security protocols. It might get pretty hyped
up. Well, Julio, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun. Our audience was really privileged to spend this time with you, and we'll be sharing this online for all those folks who couldn't join us this moment. Oh, there you go. You got your camera. And we'll just tell you heartfelt how much we appreciate your generosity in the Slow Flowers community. You're always willing to share your knowledge, and it means a lot. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for all that you've done for the flower community in this country and abroad. I hope that you know the imprint that you have in making local flowers a movement in this country. I think you're very aware that you have a hand in that. So I'm sorry that not all of my flowers were local, but
no judgment.
I will make sure to add some of the flower hat grown GM in there, just so we can get a little bit of that flavor.
That sounds great.
Bye, everybody.
That was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. As always, I feel like I could chat with Julio for hours. I wanted to mention, you heard a few other voices in this episode, including Tonali Gruder of Salty Acres Farm. She's our Slow Flowers membership manager, and I had asked Tonali to help facilitate our meetup and field questions and make sure our attendees' comments were shared during the session. So that's who you heard. You can watch the replay video in our show notes for episode 614 at slowflowerspodcast.com, including the photo that Julio shared with me of his final floral arrangement with that sparkly addition of GM flowers from the Flower Hat Farm. And I pulled out my flower hat that I've had for several years with this state shape of the badge of Montana and the flowers that are in this pattern. There's several. Julio used to sell several different designs, so I can't wait to see what he brings to the summit for one of our door prizes. If you're still thinking about attending the Slow Flower Summit, we are just 2 weeks out, and there are only 10 spaces left before we sell out. I encourage you to jump on our very last ticket promotion, which expires at midnight Pacific time on Sunday, June 11th. You can use the code Let's Do This. That's LETSDOTHIS. No spaces, no apostrophe. And that will give you 10% off any ticket level. Remember, Slow Flowers members, you already enjoy $100 off as a member benefit, so there's even more savings with this promotion. And remember, one of you might go home with the coveted gift, a floral cap from Julio. I also want to thank our sponsors who bring this show to you. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 850 florists, shops, and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, Farm Grow Flowers. Farm Grow Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S.-grown, fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgrowflowers.com. And thank you to Store It Cold, creators of the revolutionary CoolBot a popular solution for flower farmers, studio florists, and farmer florists. You can save thousands when you build your own walk-in cooler with the CoolBot system and an air conditioner. If you don't have time to build your own, they also have turnkey units available. You can learn more at storeitcold.com. And just a note about the Slow Flower Summit, CoolBot has generously donated a system valued at $375 as a door prize that we'll be giving away at the summit. So if you're in attendance, your name might be drawn for this incredible gift. Thank you to Red Twig Farms, based in Johnstown, Ohio. Red Twig Farms is a family-owned farm specializing in peonies, daffodils, tulips, and branches, a popular peony bouquet by mail program, and their Spread the Hope campaign, where customers purchase 10 tulip stems for essential workers and others in their community. Learn more at redtwigfarms.com. And a bonus for summit attendees, you'll find a creative gift from Red Twig Farms in your gift bag, a combo water bottle, drinking cup, and travel towel, perfect for summer camping or any outdoor floral activity. And our final thank you goes to the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, a farmer-owned cooperative committed to providing the very best the Pacific Northwest has to offer in cut flowers, foliage, and plants. The Growers Market's mission is to foster a vibrant marketplace that sustains local flower farms and provides top quality products and services to the local floral industry. Visit them at seattlewholesalegrowersmarket.com. The Seattle Growers Market is providing the flowers that Julio will use in his demonstration at the Slow Flowers Summit. We're so excited to see that. They're also co-hosting our after-hours tour and reception on Tuesday afternoon with Mayesh, wholesale florist, and and Seattle Wholesale Growers Market co-presenting that event. We're so grateful to them both. So much floral goodness happening. The Slow Flower Show is a member-supported endeavor, and I value our loyal members and supporters. If you're new to our weekly show or our long-running podcast, check out all of our resources at slowflowersociety.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of the Slow Flower Show and the Slow Flowers podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person, company, or organization. Thanks so much for joining us